Well, hello, everybody. Running a little bit late today because of, I did bad things with the air conditioning here at WineShark Central, meaning I left the windows open to enjoy the wonderful spring air and then left it open in the afternoon, and the AC hasn't caught up yet, so I'm sweating all over the place. So how is everybody? Welcome back to another WineShark Wednesday here with WineShark. We are looking forward to another fun day and some fun topics. So just an update about what's been going on. June dates for wine tastings are up. We've got the next, all the way through the middle of June, should be up and ready to buy tickets and all that. So to give you a little preview, if you guys haven't seen the events already, we have a show on the 6th. We're going to do port pairings. So we're going to do a couple of different ports and the things that they that taste with them. And then the next week on Friday, that's on Saturday, by the way, the 6th, not Friday. So we moved the date around. And then next Friday, the June 12th, we've got Cabernet Sauvignons from $10 to $20. So we're going to look into that kind of sweet spot for value priced cabs and talk about some of my favorites in the category. I think we're going to do some stuff from California, Washington, and I forget what the third selection was. I'll have to double check. But anyway, that's kind of what's been going on. I want to say hello and welcome to all of our new subscribers. We keep growing slowly but surely as we cross through the internet. Been very pleased with that, and I want to thank you guys for your support. Don't forget to comment and tell us where you're from, what you're drinking, all those kinds of fun things. So today we're going to talk about wine trends. We've been thinking about this for a while now. And this is going to be a multiple part series. This is just going to be a part one, kind of like the wine and cheese series. There's more to be said than just one show will allow. So we need to kind of spread things out. But each time we'll talk about what's the good and bad parts about trends and just some of the things we're going to get into. So without further ado, today's trend topic is Merlot. Okay. But as I said, before we get started about wine trends, let's talk about wine trends and what they are. Let's come into the pros and cons of what goes on in the wine world. The pro of a trend or a fad is often discovery. I think the coolest part about various wine trends through the years is that they give us oftentimes a new window into something we haven't tried before. They give us the ability to find out something that we may not have tried and introduce us to new things. So that's pretty freaking awesome. Then, of course, there's the opportunity to simply, some of the times the new isn't necessarily new. It might be old varietals presented in a new style. Or it might even be something like a new region on the rise. To give some example there, Shiraz, when it started coming up and coming from Australia, it's the Syrah grape, but with a different twist from down under. Carmenere from Chile, right? We had the whole lost grape when they thought it was Merlot all those years. Malbec. Malbec is a separate topic we're actually going to talk about, as, Malbec is the new black as a trend. But Argentina, basically has really came on the market with a whole lot of Malbec, even though it's been a French, not a monovarietal as well as a blending grape for many, many years. So sometimes trends are just new takes on an old thing. They're redos. The cons of trending is that oftentimes they are marketing driven, not merit driven. As we've talked about a couple of times, there are over 10,000 wineries that are looking to grab your attention and to sell you a product. Okay, so Madison Avenue and marketers have always been trying to push and create trends. Okay, they really want that whole kind of ability to guide the market, which is it's kind of a whole tail wagging dog kind of question mark. So Rob has just piped up in chat with his Humboldt Fog announcement. I like the fact that you toned it down from all caps into a moderate Humboldt Fog. But yes, amazing wine. I hope you're trying some of the other Cypress Grove Creamery wines. You need to go check those out for those of you that missed the Wine and Cheese Show. Cypress Grove out of California makes amazing goat cheeses. But let's talk about Merlot for a bit. Merlot. This is one of those Controversial, love it, hate it. Some people, it was their first introduction into the big world of red wine. For some people, it's the most hated new thing. It's next to Chardonnay. It's probably one of the most controversial things that's out there. So in my career, this was the wine career. This was one of the first big trends that I observed. Okay, that was in the 1990s. I was working in the restaurant industry through college and being professionally trained on wine, and Merlot became the big thing. And so let's first address the issue of why. What was it that caused this grape to gain such notoriety? It's not a particularly oddball grape. It's one of the big noble grapes from Bordeaux, and we'll talk about that's a benefit. But how did they get there? So first things first, in 1991, there was a 60 Minutes segment, that's the news show, 60 Minutes, segment called The French Paradox that basically dove into red wine in moderation was good for their health. That we had similar populations they were comparing between France and America, and how they had less heart disease, less obesity, all these other things. And yet the fact that they, all these fatty foods and cheeses and fantastic French things that they had eaten, even though Americans by, per capita exercised more, they still had higher rates of heart disease. And so thus began kind of the trend of the idea of red wine in moderation is good for your health. So in 1991, that article came out, and in the next 10 years, you saw a dramatic kind of kickoff within the U.S. of red wine sales. Merlot sales, and actually just a number of wineries doubled in just 10 years from about 8,000, there were about 3,000 to easily over 7,000 wineries 8,000 wineries in California in a process of just 10 years. You hadn't seen growth like that since the end of Prohibition. Okay. Then Merlot in itself was one of the things that they tried to figure out. I said, okay, if the American public is going to go after red wine in this French paradox, what is it that we're going to get them into? And originally began in New York with some New York wine producers that reached out and tried to decide, okay, what's the grape that's going to work here? What is the thing? Because we've already got Cabernet Sauvignon on the market. We've already got we got Pinot Noir in the form of most of the Burgundy fans. So what are we going to do? And so they wanted a new, different grape because they, especially out in New York, they were trying to figure out how they could compete with some of the big California wineries and the big French wineries. So they decided to take some of the lessons that they learned from the French in the regions of Pomerol and Saint-Emilion in Bordeaux and really focus on high quality Merlot. So Merlot, then that kind of thing spread out to the West Coast in the Washington, Columbia Valley area. They said, that seems like a really reasonable idea, a very competitive move within the market. And so over the course of the next 10 years, from 1990 to 2000, you saw Merlot consumption rise 20 times. It's what it was prior to 1990. And planting and acreage went up over 14 times. So it has definitely the Merlot craze that hit. It was 100% a real thing. Okay, so it wasn't just hype. It was very much a trend that affected both the business of wine and the consumer end of things as well. So why was this grape chosen? Well, first off, as I said before, that it has the prestige of Bordeaux. The great red wines of Bordeaux are kind of set the worldwide standard for what big red wines are supposed to be. Now, the folks from the Rhone and the folks from Burgundy will argue that, but generally speaking, Bordeaux definitely cannot deny that Bordeaux is a high prestige area. So Saint-Emilion, Pomerol, believe it or not, Merlot at the time, Merlot actually outproduced Cabernet Sauvignon ton by ton in Bordeaux, and because it had a lot of good ripening years in years that Cabernet may not actually ripen as well. So Merlot was already present, being made in great quality. The other thing is it's easy to remember. The name itself is not wildly complex, other than pronouncing it Merlot. They're probably pretty safe as a good French, grape name. So it's easy to pronounce, easy to remember. And it's also ready to drink at the time of bottling. The way that Western winemakers, New World winemakers were making the wine, they were making bottles that were ready to drink now. You didn't have to sit on them for 5 to 10 years for them to mature in the bottle, mellow out, and be ready to drink, which is definitely something that happens in the world of Bordeaux and Northern Rhone, and sometimes even in Burgundy. So all of those competitive advantages, the fact that these newer styles, these jammier, fruit forward styles of New World Merlot made a very approachable, easy to drink red. It wasn't in that big high tannin Cabernet world. It was down here, fruit forward, leading with fun, and it got a lot of people interested very fast. So I was reading an article in the Wine Enthusiast that was dated back from 2001, and one of their contributing editors, Paul Greggett, talks about how wine is a fashion-driven product, but it takes years for the industry to respond to increased demand. And if you think about that, that's a truism in both wine and the spirits industry specifically. Beer, a little less so. Beer is very agile by comparison. The agricultural products that go into it are generally available as needed, and then can be deployed into all kinds of fun products. Whereas with grape production, if you decide that you need twice the amount of Merlot that you had last year, and even if you go dig up a vineyard today and plant a brand new one, you're still talking about 3 years before you're getting viable fruit production, 5 at its peak and beyond. So it's not like you can just simply turn on the tap and produce more Merlot. Same thing happens in the spirit industry as a side note. I had the pleasure once upon a time of speaking to Jimmy Russell of the Austin Nichols distillery who produces Wild Turkey, a favorite of mine throughout college and up to now as well. Well, in the cocktail world, when cocktails started gaining new fame in the early 2000s, there was a lot of demand for rye whiskey. Well, whiskeys that take years to age, you don't just turn on a dime. And he said, I believe at the time, something like 8% of his production was going into rye, and that the demand for it almost tripled within 2 years. And it's not like you can just magically conjure up more rye whiskey. So both whiskey and with wine, same thing. Jennifer has a question. That's probably why we were so many trendy, dumb beers. No, you cannot say double IPA is a trendy, dumb beer. That is Ruth. It's rude. Don't like that. And so, but there are a lot. But I got to say, I will comment and agree that there are a lot of trendy beers that where they're willing to see whatever, you've got breweries producing 5-6 new styles of beer in a month. That's amazing. I mean, it's unheard of in the world of spirits and wine. So, and Jennifer also says her cheese paper came today. Well, she was also at the cheese tasting last Friday. That is amazing stuff. And again, learn to treat your cheese properly. Join us in one of our wine and cheese pairings and be awesome. Yeah, PB&J Stout. Now, there's an example of a beer that did not need to get made. You worked so hard at if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should. So, but yes, trendy indeed can be done. And Rob doesn't like IPAs. That's exactly, there's a trend. There's some of these trends that there's another negative of trends, actually, Rob, let's talk about that. When trends begin to crowd out good alternatives, that at the cost of other things, that's a definite negative that I want to add to my list for why trends are bad. Okay. Because I don't want to see any single style overly dominate just because of demand. I mean, I think you want to have an appropriate balance, your wine list, beer list, cocktails, same way. All of those things need to be aligned. So another thing, if you talk about hating the trend, if we go back to those that didn't like Merlot, there was a very real world backlash against Merlot when it started producing into the late 1990s and early 2000s. Some of you may remember Two Buck Chuck, all right, which Charles Shaw production. I've talked about that before in some individual classes. I may actually go into a separate little story about that, but the short form is this. They reinvented a label of Merlot and Julio Gallo over a very good production year in Merlot, and basically wanted to demonstrate the fact that because it had the word Merlot on it, that they could sell it to anybody, no matter what the price was. This was also in a time when you had a lot of overpriced Merlot. And when I say overpriced, I mean inflated price, that the stuff that was in the bottle was not worth the price tag. And that was going around a lot. And again, it was because of the privilege of the name of the grape on the label. People who didn't know a lot about wine were just taking whatever was fashionable. And they're buying $40 a bottle of Merlot that weren't drinking like the $20 bottles of Zinfandel Cab and Pinot Noir they were sitting next to. So Merlot inflation was a real thing. That then kicked the backlash. You see stuff like Two Buck Chuck. And then we turn around and talk about the movie Sideways. So Sideways was a Academy Award-winning movie and had some infamous scenes in 2004 with Paul Giamatti's character Miles, where he's bashing Merlot, where he's really kind of going on about how Merlot is just this unwine. One of the very early wine books that I read that helped turn me on was The Wine Avenger by Willie Gluckstern. The Wine Avenger, he also is pretty down on Merlot, and that was an early 2000s book. And it was, he was all about the fact that Merlot was this kind of middle of the road, medium milk toast choice. And I really think that's the pendulum swinging too far the other way. Okay. I'm gonna link a video down below in the description after we publish this one up to a video of a brief history of Merlot by Gunlock Bunshu, one of my favorite Sonoma County producers here in the States. They are amazing and a lot of fun. And there's a 3-minute video where the members of the Bunshu family basically act out the story of Merlot Cab, about basically the 5 brothers from Bordeaux: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. And it's an interesting 3-minute hilarity. So I'll post it down below. Rob had a question about what is the trendy wine suffering inflation now? Answer to that is crap in barrels. If we put a barrel on it, apparently you'll buy it. This is a spinoff, first from the cocktail community, then to the beer community, and now into the wine community. So the distilling industry, especially the bourbon industry, has a rule, I'm not sure if it's a rule or a law, where they only use their barrels once. So you take an oak barrel, you fire it, you use it to mellow your whiskey for X number of years. But after that's been done once, you chuck that bad boy and you replace it with a new one. Well, cooperage is expensive. So anything you can do to recoup cost on that barrel, you are winning the equation. So bourbon also, if you like the flavor of bourbon, those barrels are soaked in flavor. It's like, pan gravy in your cast iron. So the other folks started using them in other ways. So we saw things like the cocktail world, where you'd start barrel aging cocktails, and the beer world would take. And so this is where you see your bourbon barrel stouts and your bourbon barrel X, Y, or Z's. Okay, so there's lots of stuff. Say, okay, I talk louder when I talk about this topic. It's true. I mean, the passion comes through. It's not just the stable / professor voice. It's the on a rant. So hang on, my mouth is dry. I will do an entirely separate show on barrels, but we're going to go back to Merlot so we can finish that. So anyway, due to inflation now, it's $3 chuck. Yes, that's true. That's a solid inflationary ratio if you look at just the brief period of time we're talking about. So my advice to you when it comes to Merlot is to beat the hype on both sides. Don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything you read on either one of those. While Merlot should never have been at its inflated price points and should never have been tearing out, old vine Zinfandel in the Central Valley and all of these other crimes against humanity. On the other hand, it's not the devil's work. It is a fantastic grape on its own. It is not just a blending wine, as I've heard some folks say. It is very much a solid contender for the medium to heavyweight wine world. Okay. There is lots of opportunity, and the places I want to direct you for the value line things, is if you really want to go to the deep end, go to Saint Emilion and Parle-Morel and head to France. You can spend some real coin getting some badass Merlots. But if you want to talk about the regular level of those mortals are living on, you want to check out Columbia Valley, Washington. The place that began that trend after New York has continued it in fine style. Real values at the $20 to $40 price point with wines that 100% punch their weight, if not more. Sonoma, California, folks like Gunlock Bunshu and Alexander Valley Vineyards, and let's see who else is doing good Merlot out there. You got director. What's his name? I'm totally having a mind blank. His director's cut. I got stuck with Martin Scorsese, and that's so not it. Coppola. There we go. Francis Ford Coppola, not Martin Scorsese. Although if Martin Scorsese made wine, I think it'd be a whole nother thing. Pardon me. I'm about to scold my dogs. Hey, you too. Could you stop with the thing, with the biting and the loudness? Okay, cool. So Reds are a no-no on work nights. Makes for a long day tomorrow. Very, very accurate. Like Rob is drinking in light white moderation, enjoying a nice silky Wednesday. Very, very nice. So that's basically, that's kind of my story on Merlot, right? I certainly think it got a reputation it did not deserve, on both sides of the aisle. It is not, so check out those examples, and we will, and I would love to see in comments below some of the Merlots you love to hate, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, you can exclude $2 Chuck. It's just not a thing anymore. We need to really talk, and we're going to do a whole show on real value price wines, because of what Charles Shaw and what $2 Chuck did, it gave a lot of people the idea or permission, if you will, to think that all wines are created equal, that no matter what the price point was, because this wine tasted really good and it flew off the shelves, that everybody could do that. And that's really just not a thing. So we'll talk about ultra value wines a little bit later. But we're about halfway through the hour. That's doing well. All right. So let's talk about the grocery store grab of the week. So grocery store grab. For those of you that may be just joining us, the grocery store grab premise is we want to help get the best value per dollar out of wines found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. Okay, we want to basically, for those of you that don't have that luxury, they don't have a nice wine store or a big box store, what do you do when you just go grab, or maybe you just the convenience of you like to shop at the grocery store for your wine as well? So how do you make sure you get the right stuff? With all that hype out there, marketing, how do you see through it? I don't do any prior research on the wines that I choose from the grocery store. I shop actually at my very own grocery store, although I may vary that up from time to time. It's a local focus. Okay, label focus. Labeling focused is the thing here. The lessons we talked about on our label lesson apply here. We're going to apply those same lessons to make sure that we're finding out where quality really lives. Okay, so this week's selection: Liberty School Cabernet Sauvignon from Paso Robles in 2017. So Rob's drinking Bouger family. What else is Chris Morgan, Bataro Toscano 2016. Got a big Tuscan going on. Very nice. I can't wait to do a super Tuscan show, which believe me, I may or may not want to actually put a little cape on a bottle because I'm indulgent of myself. So, all right. That was said, the Liberty School. So this priced out at $15.99 when I purchased it. The list store price, if you don't have a club membership to your grocery store. I know some of you in some parts of the country may not be familiar with that. Down here in Texas, we have many of our grocery stores have loyalty programs, and so if you give them your marketing information, they'll give you a discount, and you'll feel like you're winning, and they'll feel like they have all the consumer data that they ever need about you. So this was listed at $19.99, and with the club price was $15.99. Now I'd seen that's a very reasonable price. This is a label that I knew before. When I say no prior knowledge, this is one where I actually had Liberty School many years ago at a restaurant called Fish City Grill, and really enjoyed it. Not this cab; it was actually their Sauvignon Blanc, and really liked it. This is a great little Central California value, for the money producer. So I really wanted to compare what this grocery store level cab could do. So on the label, let's do a little label analysis like we would if we were at the store. First things first, who is it, right? They were obviously very focused on their name, Liberty School. Very, very subtle bottle. This is very traditional. There's a picture of a church steeple. I'm sure there's a story behind why this is their choice. I believe Liberty was the school was actually founded around the town. There was a whole story there, if I remember. It also says that it's Cabernet Sauvignon from Paso Robles. So we've actually got a specific varietal and a semi-specific place. This is a particular American viticultural area. So it tells us, yes, we have that available. So let's talk about the back of the label. Back of the label repeats those things, but also here is the label verbatim, okay? Or at least my abbreviated verbatim. So Passion and grit is what led to generations that came before us to farm grapes in the once unknown region of Paso Robles. Liberty School represents our version of the American dream itself. It awakens the spirit that exists in all of us to be and do better, not because we have to, but because we want to. So now you're inspired to drink wine. So this is the kind of language that gets us deep red wine philosophy. But here's the cool part that we want and we care about. I mean, that's their style. That's their pitch. I agree with that. It's good. But fruit-driven in style, this wine showcases classic varietal flavors of dark cherry, blackberry, and black currant, layered with notes of toasted oak and soft, velvety tannins. Bam. Descriptors. Tells me about flavors. Tells me what to expect in the bottle. Even if I've never tried Cabernet Sauvignon before, I have an idea of what I'm going to taste. That is excellent. Also tells us the name of the owner and the winemaker. Tells us that Hope Family Wines is the actual owner producer. This is an Austin Hope deal. And this is actually, look at that. ABV is only 13.5. Very nice. A lot of Cabernets tend to punch above the 14.0 line. So this would be considered the low end of the high alcohol spectrum. Okay. So let's see. Matt Gilbert, I'd go to school with this way. It's wine. Nice. Maybe on the lunch menu. That would be a very different lunch lady. If you give her a lunch lady a little bit of Liberty School, I think you'd find you a very happy lunch lady. Jennifer Roth said the back of the bottle says it was going to awaken my spirit to be and do better. That's right. It does. You do not feel that you're going to be and do better after this, Jennifer? I'm very disappointed. Okay. I mean, you're going to be better. Okay. Just think of that. Even if only the first half, your wellness level will increase when you have this wine. So Paso Robles, not a fan for Rob. Three Forks is heavy on pushing them. Probably you're seeing that push because Paso Robles is a value area. This is in the Central Coast. This is the middle part of the Central Coast, I believe. And you are seeing comparatively to Napa Sonoma and the prestige that they carry, the Central Coast is still a level up from the Central Valley in terms of notoriety, and you're going to see a lot of wines that basically punch above their weight as far as the price point is concerned. Although, again, don't like that's that obviously subjective line there. So hopefully, we'll turn you on to some Paso Robles that you do like. So, and Rob is pretty fancy. I think they're right. All right. So here is, let's talk about this. That's the what's in the bottle. We got a variety. It did not mention any blends, although remember, when you see a single variety label on an American wine, you can have, I believe, up to 25% of other grapes in the bottle. As long as it's 75% or more of a single dominant grape, can be a monovarietal. That being said, sometimes you'll see small percentages actually used in the winemaking to kind of for the winemaker to guide the wine the way he wants. Doesn't necessarily mean that's true, but this don't count it out. It is a possibility. So we've already talked about the grapes, where they're grown, they're specific, they're better. We got flavor words. There's no food pairing options, but still, if we know food pairing by any little way, we can use that flavor information to our advantage. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So swirl this around. I poured this and actually tasted it just a little earlier. But color-wise, it is certainly on the inky dark side, very concentrated. All right, very dark like that. We're getting a very almost garnet and going into that orangish or rust color rather than into the purple range. Okay, also kind of indicative and on style. Swirl that around there. 5 Syrah, 3 Merlot, 2% from the winemaker notes. All right, excellent. Barbara has noted that this is indeed a blend. Although remember, that's winemaker notes. That's when you get into the ninja details. We can't make those kind of choices at the grocery store counter. But if you do your research, that's a perfect example of where that last 10%. That's the winemaker, kind of nudging things into where he wants the style. Okay, a little bit of Merlot, a little bit of Syrah, and what was so he's basically kind of pulling things together. What was the 2% there, Mom? Maybe there's a classic. You got 5% Syrah, 3% Merlot, and 2% question mark. Petite Syrah. I would not have been surprised. I was going to guess, but I didn't want to, look like a fool. All right, so let's go ahead and smell this. All right, we got straight off the nose, fruit-driven style, just like it says on the tin, right? We've got definitely on the darker side of things. This is that dark cherry, dark plum, maybe not quite boysenberry because it isn't quite that juicy, but little hints of suede, tobacco notes, kind of sweet pipe, not really jumping out of the glass like a big senior version of this, but certainly not light on the aromatics at all. Really, really upfront. Very nice. Definitely can see where they're talking about those dark fruits with dark cherry and that kind of cherry pit area, right? Let's give it a swip. Oh yeah, classic cab palate. All over your mouth, attacking from all directions. Big, just kind of meaty tannins all throughout the sides of your tongue and across the back of your palate. Fruit carried by the tannins. This is well executed in terms of balance. I mean, when we're talking this already, I'm really enjoying where they're put with the way that this wine is put together. It's very well structured. None of the things are out of harmony. You've got a really nice balance. The malolactic is light, so it's retaining a tiny hint of acidity. I'd love to see that. Definitely the fruit's on the darker side of the flavors when we push it back to that retronasal. Right, we go in through our mouth, out through our nose. Really, really ramping in on doubling down on that dark cherry pit and plum line rather than the lighter fruit. So you're not getting raspberry, cranberry, any of the pomegranate, none of that light stuff. This is very much dark side of the street. Jennifer commented that she gets leather. Absolutely, that's that suede, right? I would get that gentle, not like a saddle leather or shoe leather. I get almost that like gentle suede, pouch full of pipe tobacco is kind of the double down aroma that I would go with there. This wine could easily be the lighter end of a more refined, complicated, older brother, right? This is a fantastic $15, $16 example of what cab ought to be. This is what you should aim at for this price point. This is what you should expect, right? This is benchmark Cabernet, well done Cabernet. I mean, and so you could easily see the reserve or more specific vineyards or basically them ramping up. There could be easily price points from the same thing that would just go up the scale. You got a high end, Napa Cab, something like that. Everything, all the flavor words that I just used would be in there, but you'd add on some more. You get much more out of the bottle with those, but still, this is really, really solid in the style. So to answer our key questions, is it well executed? Absolutely. The wine structure, the build, these guys know exactly what they're doing. Is it on style? Yes, this is a classic California Cabernet Sauvignon. It is definitely on the junior end of things. Easy drinking, everyday cab, not your big celebratory crazy nuts, but awesome. Is it worth the price tag? Absolutely. This is 100% on point. Now, remember the difference between that list price of $19.99, actual sale price of $15.99. That's the kind of thing I would expect to see out of a regular wine markup. Okay. That is one of those things that in the grocery store I want you to be wary of. You guys recall last week we had the Carnivore Zinfandel priced at $17.99 and then for sale for $9.99. That to me is a case of you have to ask a salesperson what is it that you can do that you can afford to discount this that much? Why would you make that choice? Okay, either A, you inflated the price to make the discount seem better so that it would seem like a greater deal, or what? You're just willing to take a loss? I mean, you're willing to just settle for your 5% instead of your usual 25% margin? Yeah, that doesn't make much sense. So be cautious. Use price to help guide your skepticism. Okay, look at those wine labels and make sure you're not seeing a big percentage or dollar value gap when it comes to separation of those two things. Okay, so yeah, Liberty School Cab. I mean, Liberty School definitely holding up its name. They're doing very, very well. So a little preview for those that are on or that watch this later. Next week, we've got ourselves some exciting fun, something I'd never seen before, but doesn't surprise me, given that the boys from Michael David are always doing interesting new things. But over the course of the last year, Michael David has been expanding their freak show range. They divested themselves of the Seven Deadly Zins label. They sold that off and because it was becoming its own monster. And they started refocusing on their core brands of the Freak Show series with Petite Freak Show and this what they call the Circus line, and also in the Earthquake and other lines. Well, guess what? Next week, we've got Freak Show Chardonnay. Yes, a white wine with the Circus label. First time I've ever seen it in the stores, so I picked up a bottle, and we will try it here on the grocery store grab. So Jennifer said, what was this? We haven't saved the wine for when you got to let it age. That's right. A single day of aging for this wine could make all the difference in the world. Again, it is that whole, it is the wine that is for the lunch lady. So it's only gets better the more you sip. It opened about an hour, and now it's a bit better. Yeah, I would agree that you remember decanting and aeration are never going to really harm your wine, right? You're going to let so long as you don't let the wine sit out and not fully oxidize, you're going to get a nice smooth experience as those volatile phenolics and aromatics go away. Evaporation is your friend. Okay. Now, I guess it's time for open Q&A. I basically, the notes here say that I've talked about everything I promised I would talk to you about. Oh, I did forget something, actually. Up front, I was thanking our new subscribers, but was distracted by a bumblebee. And at the 100 subs mark, we will have a Flynn Markley appearance for WineShark Wednesday. For those of my fans from the Scarborough Renaissance Festival and are familiar with the world of wines with Flynn Markley, I will doff the appropriate garb and arrive in character. At the 500 mark, I will convince and twist Seamus's arm from the beer show to join me, and we will do a combo wine and beer thing. That'll be fun. So math question is, wait, the bottle lasted an hour? What is this, magic? Yes, the bottle lasted an hour. Remember, Matthew, they're not married to your wife. Your wife and that bottle are a dangerous combination, and don't you pretend otherwise. Oh, man. What snacks should you have for Friday? I'm not telling you about snacks for Friday. That's cheating. No, sure. We're doing Dark Side Reds. So you've segued me appropriately into literally the next bullet point on the Q&A chat, which is Friday night. The tasting is Dark Side Reds. We're going to go to Spain, Portugal, and Lodi. We're going to do wines, red wines that are really on the dark side of the spectrum. We're going to do some Petit Syrah. We're going to do some Priorat. We're going to do some Touriga Nacional. And so these are big red wines, right? Big dark side reds demand big, bold foods to go with them. So stay away from your melons and citrus fruits. Stick with things that have some oomph to them. In the cheese world, this is grab your crumbly, salty awesomes, aged cheddars. I want to see Parmesans and Reggianos. I want to see Pecorino. You could easily grab, actually, surprisingly, because they do carry some weight, either Gruyere from Switzerland or Comté from France. Those would be excellent partners. I've tried those before and with good success. Then, if you want something a little bit more substantial for your choice, go ahead and grill up a burger and slap some gorgonzola cheese on it and bacon and a brioche bun and a tomato the size of my head. You'll thank me later. That'd be awesome. But yes, Saturday will be a big, bold hangover. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. I keep forgetting to talk to people about that, but that's the other thing. For every glass of wine you have a glass of water. Hydration is your friend. Be a hydro homie. Get yourself some water. That will help solve and fight the battle. Drink like a pro. Trust me on this one. So, what other questions have you got? We've had a couple of examples of what we're drinking. Loved to hear that. That's awesome. We got some Tuscans in the group, some Vouvrays. I know that Jennifer says she's drinking along with the Liberty School. What else? Anybody else got any secrets that they're hiding, withholding? You can find yourself some excellent examples, and I'd love to hear what you guys are drinking. Anybody have other questions about Merlot and the topic of the day? Anything about like that? We got to spurn you guys, or I'm going to start asking you guys questions now. So, Cloudy Bay Sauv Blanc. Nice little Marlboro action. That is an excellent choice, Matthew Gilbert. I love it. So, yeah, Chris, I'm telling you, man, high quality bacon. We ought to do just as a bacon as a dish, to when you talk about it. Although to be perfectly honest, Syrah or Shiraz and bacon are your true match made in heaven. In fact, the Central California Shiraz. So hang on, let me do all of our pronunciations correctly. It's Syrah if it's from France, it's Shiraz if it's from Australia, and it's Syrah if it's from California, right? Especially Central Coast, like Shiraz or Syrahs, depending on. But anyway, their style has sometimes been compared. In fact, I think it was Willie Gluckstern that compared it to what they call the IHOP style, International House of Pancakes, because you get these delightful blueberry, blackberry, boysenberry, syrupy flavors, along with a little bit of bacon on the grill, bacon fat, that kind of, which is a hint of their Northern Rhone heritage, right? So bacon, especially a little bit of black pepper on there, amazing with Syrah Shiraz. And yes, Fancy Hamlin, we will begin to call you that from now on. We'll call Rob Fancy. So yeah, those are some of the other up and comers. We were working on moving camera stuff around and trying to improve lighting and stuff in here. So I've got some plans on doing that. Hopefully we don't have to put up with my mediocre setup for only too long. I've been creative about moving my desk and whatnot. So that's going to be kind of fun. So you came back and your puppy was drinking your wine. Okay, that's not a good idea. He can like it, but you should not serve wine to your dogs. You should serve bourbon to your dogs. No, just joking. Although I wonder, grapes are very bad for dogs, grapes and lime. I wonder whether it's just fresh grapes or with wine is also. So if he happens to have a gastrointestinal accident, we cannot be responsible for your wine drinking your Liberty School Cabernet Sauvignon. So also, partial fun story about the Liberty School introduction. When I had the Sauvignon Blanc at Fish City Grill, one of the awesome things about Fish City Grill was they do a monthly support of their local community where they take all the profits from, it's the first Tuesday or last Thursday of every month. I don't remember the date, but they would take the entire restaurant chain, which was basically, I think, 4 or 5 locations around Dallas, and all the profits from that evening would be, or that day's sales would be donated to a charity of choice, specifically focused on local charities. So I thought that was always a very cool giving back model, paying it forward. So definitely once things are back to it's okay to dine in a room with people again mode, you Dallas folks should check out Fish City Grill. They are a great little fish restaurant, and everything and all styles too, grilled, fried, or otherwise. They do pretty banging seafood, I gotta say. Oh, it's the skin on the grapes that's bad. Okay, well that's a good note for our dog loving friends, yours truly included. He might sleep good tonight, but I don't think. Hopefully he does it without feeling ill beforehand. So there's a Fish City in Mansfield. Oh, excellent. See, I knew that they were a small local chain. As far as they had Louisville, a couple in Dallas. I think there's one here in Plano. But yeah, great restaurant, really friendly people. And so I can definitely endorse them with a hearty fish up, as in one shark to another. And yes, so very well. So to my niece who's also watching us online. Hello there, niece Eleanor. Glad to see you again watching us. And even though you don't care, all the dogs are right behind. Oh no, Laszlo's not behind me anymore. So, but Tuco's at my feet. So there's my other dog. All right, guys. Well, if we guys are out of questions, we'll move on to closing comments. So don't forget to talk to me in the comments section, not just the chat, about what you guys are drinking. If you guys weren't able to catch up with us live and comment in the chat, drop us a line in the comments below. We'd be glad to hear, reply, and know what you'd like to see. If you've got a wine that you'd like us to review on the Grocery Store Grab, It's not just about me guessing and picking something. I'm glad to start picking up other things so we can kind of review those together, see what it is about those various grocery store level wines, and trying to find the real gems and wines for our values. So share your flavors, share your finds, thumbs up, thumbs down, what you think of the show. We'd love to have your world of opinions. Do those comments and subscribe. Share with a wine-loving friend if you really like the show. We'd like to see other folks come in and give their opinions and thoughts as well. You can also support us on Patreon. All of our Patreons help really keep this operation, this boat floating and in order. So we want to say thank you to all of our generous Patreons, our newest two Patreons, John and Guna, who joined us this week. So thank you, John. Thank you, Guna. And a shout out to our cellar level members, Barbara, Dan, and Matthew. They are our most generous supporters that help us keep the lights on here. And it's awesome because, drinking alone in the dark is only what we do after the pandemic is over. So, all right, guys. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, I am going to bid you adieu and then go try and see whether I can figure out whether the air conditioner will catch up with today's heat so I can stop sweating like I'm being grilled by a congressional committee. So, on behalf of WineShark and everybody else, until next time, guys, hope to see you guys on Friday for our tastings. So until then, cheers. We'll see you all soon.